they try and manage that as best they can as Flavio Briatore provides his message of goodwill. They circulate air through the hubs. There's the current conditions. 28 track temperature at the moment, air temperature 20, humidity's lower than it's been for the last day or so, and a bit of scattered cloud towards the south as the tyre warmers.
Just a word of warning, Rosberg is directly ahead of you, and he is pretty hot-headed from what we've seen so far. He tried to run his teammate off the track at the start of the last race.
So just a reminder to Rubens Barrichello, Patrick Head had a word in quite strong terms to Nico Rosberg after that aggressive start at round 2 of the championship in Malaysia. So though Rubens has been warned, I suspect that Nico is going to be cautious on the run to turn 1 today.
Rubens told Murray earlier, long way, he's fueled up, cars roll. Next time we see them on the grid, it will be for real.
Remember that launch control has been banned in Formula 1, but they still have traction control. So the driver manually releases the hand clutch. He engages the throttle percentage required, but then a massive amount of automation takes over. So typically the Renault team have been very strong in terms of their launch away from the line. We know about the weight bias in those Renaults and how well they've been able to launch away from the line, but partly due to the staggering electronic control and the traction control to get those cars away. How well will they run today? They command the Constructors' Championship, as you can see. And they've been dominant in the first 2 races so far this year. A win for Alonso in Bahrain, a win for his teammate Fisichella in Malaysia. And Renault have got the points on the board here last year. But this is the pole man, Jenson Button, still yet to win a Grand Prix. He gets frequently reminded by his countrymen, and a lot of pressure on him.
You can check you're happy with your brake balance.
Trying to keep and increase as much heat in those tyres as possible. Button said he needs to get away first, needs to get to the first corner first. And Mark Webber has his eyes on Ralf Schumacher, wants to get to turn 1 ahead of him and then focus on what's ahead with the McLarens, the Renaults and the Honda of Jenson Button.
Because one of the interesting facts that's not widely publicised is in that whole manoeuvring that went on behind the scenes with Jenson Button wanting to change teams backwards and forwards between Williams and Honda. Ultimately, to settle that dispute with Frank Williams, Honda and Button had to pay a lot of money to Williams this year. They're one of the most significant sponsors of the Williams team, but you won't see their stickers on the car.
It gives us a real thrill to be able to say Murray Walker is a part of the Network 10 commentary team. How did you enjoy it down there on the grid?
Absolutely terrifically. It was a new experience for me. Thrill of a lifetime to be down there with all the Formula 1 cars in that incredible atmosphere, which is about to get even more.
Whoa!
And there's a spin there for the McLaren. Well,
Montoya has spun.
Oh, now, if he stalled the engine, there's going to be a major problem. He'll have to start from the back of the grid. This is the last thing we expected to see, especially from a driver as experienced. Oh, this is an absolute catastrophe for Montoya. And the McLaren team will be distraught at that. All the rest of them are going to form up on the grid in front of him. And he must be absolutely cursing himself just to touch too much throttle there. And the back spun away and off he went. And look at him.
Leave it.
He's trying to grab reverse. He's got reverse.
And that's where he'll have to stay, behind Yuji Ide and Takuma Sato. The yellow flags are waving. And Fisichella, has Fisichella stalled? Flavio Briatore and Alan Permane, his engineer, look very, very unhappy.
It's an extra formation lap. It's an abort start, an extra formation lap for this aborted start, and now a problem with the Renault as well. So the lights were flashing yellow overhead on the Foster's gantry, and it's yellow flags all down the side for the Renault. So a huge problem for Montoya, a huge problem for Fisichella, and the field will do another lap, and that will take 1 lap out of the race duration. It'll now be a 57-lap race.
And it's going to be not a gift for Button, but it's going to be a very welcome present for Button, because already 2 of his major competitors, Juan Pablo Montoya and the Renault, are right at the back of the grid, because that will be the position when they come round at the end of this extra formation lap.
And not only is Button a winner, Mark Webber is a winner. That takes out 2 that were ahead of him on the grid.
Well spotted. Well spotted, Lee. That's absolutely right. That'll help the Williams enormously, this very nimble motor car. And look, this is a replay of what happened at Montoya. He was coming up behind his teammate, Kimi Raikkonen. I don't know if he just got a bit too close. Ross Brawn there, the Ferrari technical chief, a smile on his face. He's a happy man. He's not too unhappy to see one of the McLarens removed from contention. This is a cutthroat business, Formula One. Devil take the hindmost, and every man for himself once the flag has stopped and the lights have gone out.
We don't think Montoya is going to retake his position either.
Where's the other Renault?
Fizzy's stalled on the grid, so you've just got Alonso behind you.
What a gift for Jenson Button.
Aren't they incredibly cool, these drivers? Where's the other Renault? And the answer was, Jenson, right behind you, sunshine. You haven't had all the obstacles removed. You've had 2 of them removed. That's Pat Simmons, Flavio Briatore. Pat Simmons is the tactician for the Renault team. And with Ross Brawn, he's the very, very best. So Kimi Raikkonen lines up. Ahead of him, Alonso. Ahead of him, Jenson Button. Behind him, Ralf Schumacher. There is Mark Webber having to pop on the brakes. And Montoya rejoining station.
Yes, he's taking his position. Oh. And this is the bit that he got wrong last time. He picked up the throttle. Sometimes they have the traction control switched off while they warm the tyres, just to try and retain the heat in the back of the car. Ron Dennis looks on. What a bizarre start to the Grand Prix. Nick Fry unimpressed.
Nick Fry and Gilles de Ferran shaking their heads. They're not too happy, I think, about Montoya rejoining the grid in that 5th position of his. So it's still Jenson Button on the right in pole position. Fisichella, of course, is missing, so Jenson Button has got a clear run down to the first corner.
Empty grid spot on the left. Jenson Button, as Gilles de Ferran, the sporting director of Honda Racing, watches on. This could be good for Button. It makes his job a lot easier, and it goes from 58 to 57 laps.
And the red lights, 1, 2, and the Australian Grand Prix is go, go, go! And a lovely start for Jenson Button, followed by Alonso, who's going to challenge on the inside corner, but he has to duck back. He locks up his tyres, and the 2 McLarens are absolutely together. So Jenson Button still, and this is absolutely vital for Button. He will have a light fuel load, but Alonso knows it, and he's going for it. He's going. What an incredible move by Fernando Alonso, but Jenson Button cuts him off, and Alonso still stays in 2nd position while the 2 McLarens jostle behind him, followed by Ralf Schumacher and Mark Webber. So
Alonso tried to go around the outside at turn 3 because he knew that would give him track position at 4, but he couldn't get it done without running wide, and it wasn't a good start. There's a problem for Trulli. David Coulthard is involved.
Contact.
Ralf Schumacher's got a problem, and Webber got a poor start. Safety car has been deployed, I understand.
It looked to me as though David Coulthard made contact.
No, safety car is standing by.
What a wild start. Look at the McLaren side by side. Raikkonen and Montoya.
And Jenson Button, that's bad news for Jenson Button, because the safety car is coming out. The field will close up. The gap that Jenson Button had created, just a small gap between himself and Fernando Alonso, and the 2 silver McLarens will close up. It will be nose to tail behind the safety car while they retrieve the cars on the track.
So why did Ralph end up in that position there?
Well,
that may be part of the story. So Felipe Massa, Greg Rust.
Well, it was actually the very exit of pit lane, Neil, just prior to the start of the race. An enormously dejected Giancarlo Fisichella, last year's winner of this event, running right at the tail of the field. A
Well, what drama. First of all, Montoya spins, and then Fisichella stalls on the grid. We have the safety car out. The Ferrari of Felipe Massa is out. Looks as though Ralf Schumacher is out. And here coming towards us is Nico Rosberg's Williams with the whole rear wing missing. Wow. Wow, 4 or 5 cars in trouble out of the 22 that started.
Yes, and it was Trulli's car, the Toyota, that was in trouble because Ralph's still on the course. That's a lot of damage to Massa's car for the second day in a row as Fisichella gathers it up.
An extraordinary start to the Australian Grand Prix as Nico Rosberg jumps from his Williams. There's something wrong. There was a fire. There was a fire. That's why he got out so hastily.
Doesn't matter too much, I think, Lee, because the wing's missing.
Well, here is the replay of the start. Watch to the right of your screen. Webber thought about coming across. Right there, thought again. He had the jump on Ralf Schumacher, but then stayed wide into turn 1.
Yeah, the McLaren's closed off that gap.
Heidfeld tried to get on the inside of him, and not a bad start from Trulli either. Now, I wonder, where is Rosberg? Rosberg's there. He and Massa have come together. On board with Alonso. Button up ahead.
No Fisichella on the right, of course. And Alonso closes right up on the Honda in front of him. He's challenging. He knows that with a heavier fuel load, he's got to get past Jenson Button, but he doesn't do so.
Contact there. David Coulthard was in the mix as well. Rosberg way out wide. And what an extraordinary opening stanza. And there's the contact there between Massa. Rosberg just had the whole rear wing assembly torn from his Williams. And 2 crashes in 2 days for Felipe Massa.
Well, for whatever reason, Felipe Massa is not covering himself with glory as a Ferrari driver this year. And there's the contact between Jarno Trulli and David Coulthard.
And that brings an end to what's been an unhappy weekend for Jarno Trulli. He's suffering from the flu, felt miserable since he's been here, and a miserable end as Fizzy spins around. Stay with us. If you've just tuned in, you just missed this. The reason for our first full course caution. Felipe Massa, Nico Rosberg and David Coulthard coming together. And Massa out, Rosberg out. We are back to racing, and we've got a new race leader. And look at Mark Webber. He's got ahead of Ralf Schumacher, and he's under fire. Alonso is at the front.
An absolutely sensational passing move by Fernando Alonso on Jenson Button has taken him into the lead of the Australian Grand Prix, where he wanted to be with a heavier fuel load than the lighter fueled Honda. And Ralf Schumacher is going well. He's in 4th position, but Webber is doing an absolutely fantastic drive. So there's Webber. Behind him, the McLaren. Behind him is Ralf Schumacher.
There's your new race leader.
And Fernando Alonso putting space between himself and the battle between Jenson Button's Honda and Kimi Raikkonen's McLaren, followed by Mark Webber in 4th position. Montoya is 5th. Ralf Schumacher is in 6th position. And Heidfeld in the BMW is in 7th place. Now, is Jenson Button going to fight back? We've had this problem before where Jenson has dropped back a bit. The Renaults really seem to have a grip on the race already. Fisichella, of course, in trouble after that, stalling his engine on the first start. And look at Alonso pulling away. Jenson Button's got 2 problems now. One, he's got to try and catch Fernando Alonso, and the other is that he's got to try to stop Kimi Raikkonen from following him.
Fisichella was also out of shape and turning himself around at turn 2 earlier as well, so he's got more problems at the back of the field trying to work his way through, but Alonso is just braining them at the moment. He's making huge margin. Webber's under a bit of pressure, so Alonso, Button, Raikkonen, and the Button-Raikkonen battle's a good one. Kimi actually had the left rear on the grass on the run to turn 3 on this lap. Then Webber, Montoya, Ralf and Heidfeld, and still this battle continues.
And Mark Webber is driving out of his skin as Montoya attacks and goes through. Webber loses his 4th position to the McLaren. It's got greater speed, the McLaren of Montoya. He was lucky to be in this race after spinning on the first one.
Christian Klein in the Red Bull.
Klein out of the race. Rosso. That's Keke Rosberg out. Massa out. Trulli has stopped.
Oh, that was a very, very heavy impact with the wall down at 9.
And that shows how immensely strong those cars are, because we've seen Christian Klein, the Austrian countryman of 3 times world champion Niki Lauda, out of the car and walking away.
Fastest lap of the race, a 32.6 for Alonso.
But let's just take a breath and think for a moment. There are going to be stops in this race. There are going to be fuel stops. There are going to be tyre stops. The strategy is going to come into play. We don't know what those strategies are. And here we are with Alonso on a replay of him challenging Jenson Button for the lead. Jenson Button moves to the left. Alonso inexorably closes up, dives under the bridge, goes for the inside of the corner, and bingo! He's in the lead of the Australian Grand Prix. Darryl.
Yeah, Jano, big disappointment with that accident and the contact, probably not to your liking.
Well, I mean, Coulthard was very slow. I was zigzagging on the straight, so I went on the inside before the corner, so I took him, and I don't know why he hit me on the back, and it just broke my rear suspension.
Been difficult with you haven't been feeling well also.
I've had such bad luck this week, and which I hope I don't have it anymore.
Thanks, Jano.
I wonder how disappointed Jarno Trulli is to be out of the race as we see this replay of Klein taking an enormous hit because Trulli has got flu.
Greg Murray, there's been a message from the Honda team directly to Rubens Barrichello. They're saying, please, we need to get some heat into these rear tyres. So even at this stage, they don't feel that the rear tyres are working to their optimum temperature. They're encouraging him somehow to do that.
And he's in 13th place. Here are your top 10 on lap 7. Fernando Alonso is leading Jenson Button by 3.7 seconds. He's leading Raikkonen by 4.5. Montoya is 4th. Webber is 5th. Ralf Schumacher is 6th ahead of Heidfeld. Michael Schumacher, who started 10th, is up to 8th position ahead of Tonio Liuzzi in the Toro Rosso. And in 10th position is his teammate Scott Speed from America.
Alonso carried so much more mid-corner pace through turn 16 when he made that move on Jenson. He just cruised down the inside and made it stick quite easily and is just roaring down the road with a huge margin already. 3.7 seconds. He's driving off into the distance.
And Fisichella is in the race. He is in 15th position in the second of the 2 Renaults. And the safety car is coming out again for the second time in this race, which is on only its 7th lap, as Fernando Alonso increases the pace. But it's not heartbreak for Alonso, but it's very, very tough luck, because just as Jenson Button was handicapped by the pace car coming out and slowing everybody up and telescoping the field, the same thing is happening to Fernando Alonso. Nick Heidfeld there, followed by Michael Schumacher, who's followed by Tonio Liuzzi. That is Scott Speed.
Greg.
Murray, I can tell you they have also sent the same message, the Honda team, to Jenson Button, just while we have a safety car situation, to keep the heat in the tyres as much as possible. And there's been a message also to Fernando Alonso from the Renault crew. There is possibly some sort of data transfer problem. They're having trouble trying to assess, I'm sure it's fuel burn or something like that, so they're getting him to scroll through certain pages on the steering wheel and feed some information back to them via the radio.
Second safety car intervention. The field slows, will take a breather, come back, go racing. Lights are out on the safety car. We are set to go racing again. After the second safety car intervention to clean up the debris from Red Bull Racing's Christian Klein, who had a very high-speed crash. He, along with Jarno Trulli, Felipe Massa, and Williams' Nico Rosberg, teammate to Mark Webber, are all out of the Australian Formula One Grand Prix.
And now watch Michael Schumacher in the background. He's up into 8th position in the Ferrari, and of course with the safety car having come out, the gap has been closed up. It's been a boon to Fisichella too, because although he's still in 15th position, he too is tight up behind the car in front of him, and that is David Coulthard. And the Australian race is go again with Raikkonen challenging Jenson Button and going through, locking up up his tyres and he zooms through, takes his second position. So Jenson Button, who started in pole, has lost the lead to Alonso. He's lost the second place to Kimi Raikkonen. And Kimi Raikkonen is so hungry for a win as Button challenges again. They both run wide. Fight, fight, fight! Montoya sees his opportunity to close up. We're with Montoya now. Ahead of him is Button, ahead of him is Raikkonen. You know, people say to me that Formula One is dull. They must be out of their tiny minds. This is sensational.
That was a remarkable bit of clean driving on the part of Jenson Button and Kimi Raikkonen, though, at turn 3, because they could so easily have interlocked wheels, but they managed to get the job done cleanly and fight on through the lap.
Well, now watch Kimi Raikkonen. He's been liberated. He's cleared Jenson Button. Montoya's having another go. What a fantastic development.
Button doesn't have the pace that we expected based on yesterday's qualifying performance.
Remember that they've told Button to try and get more heat into his rear tyres. My goodness, he's trying. He's got somehow to keep the McLaren behind him. And all the time, Alonso is striding away now. He's well over a second ahead. Greg.
Well, Nico Rosberg, that's a heartbreaking way to bow out of your first Australian Grand Prix. Just give us your take on it.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because already before the start, so many people went to the back and went off. So I thought, oh, this could be a really good race for me today. And I was in a good position after the first corner. But unfortunately, the two guys on the inside did something, and Massa came flying over my rear. So,
Nico, what's the status of the damage on the car? Obviously, you can't continue. Just tell us what's broken.
The rear wing is broken, so and some probably suspension or something. That's why they didn't let me continue. Hard luck.
Look at this, it's on again, it continues. Montoya and Button. Button has remained in front only just, and Montoya is growing impatient. Honda versus McLaren Mercedes.
With Alonso now 2.7 seconds ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. Alonso has put up the fastest lap of the race so far. Listen to that V8 engine, revving at 19,000 RPM, over 700 horsepower. But Button stays ahead. It looks as though those rear tyres are working for him now.
Mark Webber staying in touch. He's got a good margin over Ralf Schumacher, and he is well in touch. On board with Kimi. This is the challenge on Button into turn 1.
And see, it locked up on the painted white line there on the run 2-1. He was actually quite lucky to get away with that. Has he marked the tyre, though? Here it is again from above.
I had a good look at the tyre when we were on the close-up there, Lee, and it looks to me as though it's okay. No flat spot. We're riding now with Alonso. No, Fisichella, and ahead of Fisichella now, he's cleared David Coulthard, he's ahead of Rubens Barrichello, he's closing up on Takuma Sato, believe it or not, in the Super Aguri. And Montoya still pushing, with Jenson Button running wide.
This is the replay of the problem he had earlier, outbraked himself down at 3.
That's Antonio Liuzzi has got by Michael Schumacher. The Toro Rossos are having a great run. Speed now looks at Schumacher.
This is quite incredible because Liuzzi and Speed, neither of them have the experience of Michael Schumacher. They've got the 3-litre V10 engines in their Toro Rosso cars with a restrictor which limits the horsepower to make them about the same as the V8s.
Kimi Raikkonen's on target to do the fastest lap of the race. 2 fastest sectors so far for him.
And we're on lap 12 out of 57.
And he's closing the gap, 2.3 seconds to Fernando Alonso. The McLaren is steaming. Greg?
Well, in the interim, the Renault team have been on the radio just briefly to Fernando Alonso. They're telling him just watch low gear over revs was the message. Watch low gear over revs.
Yeah, and that's when he's downshifting. He's trying to pull it back into a lower gear too early.
Michael Schumacher, 7 times the world champion, 8th position. Ahead of him is Heidfeld in the BMW. Behind him is Liuzzi. No, ahead of him is Liuzzi now.
This is very promising for Toro Rosso.
It's amazing.
It's an outstanding performance. And this is how Liuzzi did it. Michael gave him the same treatment that he gave Nick Heidfeld. Same corner, same place last year, but Liuzzi was more forceful.
I can hardly believe my eyes, Lee, seeing Tonio Liuzzi, a new boy to Formula One, just taking Michael Schumacher, of all people, like that. Michael moves wide, lets him through.
And doing
Stop speed, closes up.
And doing it on the dirty side of the road, and not an easy thing to pull off down there.
So where are we at the front? The answer is that Kimi Raikkonen is doing fastest lap after fastest lap. 1.9 seconds now behind Fernando Alonso in the lead. That's Gerhard Berger and Franz Tost, the top people of the Toro Rosso team, looking at their men, and they must be very happy indeed, with Liuzzi pulling away from Michael Schumacher. I can only think, being as generous as possible, that Liuzzi is on a very, very low fuel load. Alonso, second in the lead. Raikkonen in second position. 4.1 seconds now. Alonso has just made another fastest lap, 1:27.475.
Alonso has responded. He's got the margin back out now to 4.1 seconds. Here's Michael, position 9. And in danger of being attacked next by Scott Speed, one of 3 newcomers to this event this year.
And that fastest lap so far by Fernando Alonso is only 3 seconds slower with the V8 engine, 200 horsepower down on last year's than Michael Schumacher's previous fastest lap.
And how frustrating for Rubens Barrichello. He is in the factory Honda team right there, and he is struggling to get by Sato in the Honda supported team, the new Super Aguri outfit. Sato is holding him off.
Rubens has got huge problems there because politically he won't get too many races where he can withstand that kind of performance without Anthony Davidson starting to be felt from behind, as it were. You'll start to feel his presence in the team because we know how strong he was on Friday. Nick Fry said yesterday, we're happy for Rubens to settle in, but if we had this kind of problem by the mid-year, then yes, it is a problem.
And what a demeaning thing that would be for Rubens Barrichello.
Coulthard is tucked in behind, then Christian Albers in the MF1, the Midland, the Toyota-powered Midland. But it's Alonso, Raikkonen up front. What a race it's shaping up to be. And if you've just turned on, Australia's Mark Webber is in touch. Webber is 5th for Williams.
That's Michael Schumacher heavily locking the front right brake on the run to turn 1. He carried it for almost 100 odd metres and did damage. See that black mark on the front right tyre? That is a flat spot. He's in position 9 at the moment.
Now, I'll tell you what happens when you get a flat spot. The tyres literally vibrate so much that your eyeballs virtually rattle in your head. The vibration is terrific. The same thing happened to David Coulthard this year, and it really, really puts you off. We're on lap 17 out of 57.
What's happened while we're away? Scott Speed made several attempts to get Michael Schumacher unsuccessfully. He's dropped off the pace, and Giancarlo Fisichella has come through, and Schumacher is next on his list. Fisi is up to 10th, Michael is 9th, and Liuzzi maintaining his 8th. That was the race leader that just flashed through. Alonso, Raikkonen, and Button has maintained 3rd. He is handling the pressure from Montoya, and here is Mark Webber.
In 5th position, Mark Webber.
Alonso continues to improve in terms of fastest lap. 17 laps banked, 26.999 for Fernando that last time through. And he's opened the margin again now to 7.5 seconds. There was that odd period where all of a sudden it got down to within about 2.5 seconds as Fizzy closes on the back of Michael. But now Fernando's just streaking away. Button seems to have nothing right at the moment.
Michael Schumacher seems to have a brake problem, judging from the way he flat-spotted his tyre and ran off the circuit there. But Alonso on the 18th lap is now 7.5 seconds ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. and he's 13 seconds ahead of Jenson Button, who is third, with Montoya tucked up under his wing. Mark Webber just behind them in 5th position. Ralf Schumacher in the Toyota is 6th. Heidfeld is 7th. Liuzzi in the Toro Rossi is a superb 8th position, ahead of, I repeat, ahead of Michael Schumacher, with Fisichella had worked his way up from the back of the field into 10th place. He's sprinting through the field.
Villeneuve's done a good job to date as well, 19th to 12th in the BMW Sauber. His teammate Nick Heidfeld is in 7th.
And it was about time we had pit stops. This is lap 18 out of 57 as Montoya comes into the pits and Webber moves up into 4th place. Ralf Schumacher into 5th position. Heidfeld to 6th position. And Fisichella is challenging Michael Schumacher. Here comes the Ferrari behind it, and tucked up right behind his rear wing as Montoya emerges is Fisichella. So Montoya rejoins in 10th position.
So this is telling us that we're looking at 2-stop strategies for everybody. No one's come in early, and had they come in early, they would have lost their advantage with the safety car compression on 2 occasions anyway.
9.5 seconds that stop for Juan Pablo Montoya. He took on new tyres and refueled. And he's down to 10th place behind Michael Schumacher, who's moved up into 8th position.
This is an important phase of the Grand Prix for Webber, who's now in a good clear air position. We know that he's got a little more fuel. Can he do anything with it as he burns it down and runs lighter for longer and get track position as a result?
Reports from the lane, Toyota crew getting ready, Ferrari getting ready. It's all starting to happen. Historically speaking, it's been a 2-stop strategy as Button is in. And Ralf Schumacher following him into the lane.
This is where slick pit work really counts.
Webber is going to pit this lap, and they've asked him to pit, to push really hard as they get a wing adjustment on the front of Jenson's car.
Out sprints the Honda, followed by the Toyota of Ralf Schumacher as Michael Schumacher completes the lap. The Honda rejoins behind him, but significantly in front of the McLaren. Now that was a vital pit stop for Jenson Button. And Fisichella in. Fisichella in before Alonso. That is significant.
And look at that. Montoya ahead of Button. He fought so hard for so long on track to get ahead of the Englishman, and he's done it via the pit stop.
So Michael Schumacher is up into 7th place. Behind him is Montoya. There he is, and behind him is Jenson Button. And Fernando Alonso, the race leader, comes in for his pit stop with a lead of 9.4 seconds at the end of the previous lap over Kimi Raikkonen's McLaren.
Brake and revs, brake and revs.
The incredibly cool and calm Fernando Alonso feeds in the power. That brakes on notice was, of course, to enable the mechanics to get the rear wheels on. Turns in, and Alonso is on his way. Kimi Raikkonen leads the race. Webber is up into 2nd position. Behind Alonso, the white car is the BMW of Nick Heidfeld. Alonso is in 3rd position, so he has lost very little as a result of that pit stop. A superb one by the Renault crew.
Raikkonen's going for it. Raikkonen has put in a personal best 1st and 2nd sector. He is trying to make the most of it.
Webber's stayed out for an additional lap. A personal best in the 1st sector. He's been screaming on the radio, but I can't pick up what the issue is for him at the moment. He did complain about a brake bias issue in the formation lap.
Well, this will be Kimi Raikkonen coming into the McLaren pit.
Here he is.
He was the race leader. He won't have made up that 9 seconds on Fernando Alonso. He may have made up some of it. Let's see how the pit stop goes. Clearing the radiators from any debris that might overheat the engine.
Mark Webber is now leading the Grand Prix, and the message again from Williams is push, push, push. A 100km/h pit lane speed limit as the Formula One cars transit the lane, and out goes Raikkonen.
And Mark Webber, of course, let's be clear about it, has yet to make his pit stop. Montoya has stopped. Jenson Button has stopped, just a 5-second stop. And it's Webber leading. Alonso is up into second place now. Heidfeld behind him, who is yet to stop. Kimi Räikkönen in 4th place.
We're hearing that Ralf Schumacher has been handed a drive-through penalty. Speeding on pit lane.
Now all the drivers have a button on the steering wheel which they punch as they cross the line going into the pit lane to slow them down to the mandatory speed, and it looks as though Ralf Schumacher hit that button just a little bit too late. Jenson Button on the inside of the corner there, fighting for the position with the McLaren and losing it.
Webber, race leader.
And he's staying out, so that earlier message was confusing where they talked about bringing him in. He's staying out for considerably longer than the others, which tallies with what they told us earlier in the day in terms of fuel load.
Mark Webber driving a beautifully clean race, and whatever happens, who's going to be able to say, I led the Australian Grand Prix?
On the last lap, he did make an error in Sector 2. Cost him quite some time, but the margin he has at the moment over Fernando Alonso is 4 seconds. But as Murray pointed out, he must stop for fuel and another set of tyres.
And when you stop, of course, you have to slow down to go into the pit lane. You've got that mandatory speed limit in the pit lane. You've got to take on the tyres, take on the fuel, exit the pit lane at the speed limit, and then get up to speed again. It costs a lot more time than just the time they spend at a standstill. But anyway, Mark Webber is still leading on lap 23 in this 57-lap race. We have to wait for the fuel stops and the pit stops to settle down to give us the true order. But at the present moment, it's Mark Webber leading previous race leader Alonso.
I just got a message from Webber suggesting that he may have lost the clutch or something, was the remark. And here he is.
No.
While in the lead, it is all over for Mark Webber.
I have been taught not to use the word tragedy, but for Mark Webber, this is a tragedy. Leading his home Grand Prix only for a problem with the car. We presume it's the clutch to take him out of the race. What cruel, cruel, bitter luck. Oh. So that's both the Williams out. Rosberg as a result of that collision earlier on, which ripped off his rear wing, and now Mark Webber. So it's an early bath for Williams, and Alonso is back in the lead with Heidfeld in second position. And Heidfeld has yet to make a pit stop.
In Formula One, the word reliability is used so often, and it has not been there for Williams for the past 2 Grand Prix.
Ironically, a BMW road car parked behind Mark Webber's Cosworth-powered Williams, and it was a BMW engine they used last year. But here is Jenson Button coming straight towards us. Look at the heat haze. And behind him is Scott Speed in the Toro Rosso. It's a bit of a false illusion that, because Button has made his pit stop and Speed has not. Button is in 6th position, Speed is in 7th place, Ralf Schumacher is 8th, Liuzzi in the Toro Rosso is 9th, and Jacques Villeneuve has worked his way up through the field in the BMW to 10th place.
That three-way battle that's been going on for so long between Sato, Barrichello and Coulthard. Sato has pitted, and that's why Rubens had clear air ahead with Coulthard right behind. So Alonso has a 2.1 second lead over Nick Heidfeld, Raikkonen, Michael Schumacher, Montoya and Button the top 6.
It's extraordinary when you consider the amount of testing that Williams and all of these teams have done through the winter period. 16,000 Ks for Williams, not a murmur of a driveline issue. They did 1,100 Ks in Valencia last week. Reliability was something they've been talking up, but the last two events, hydraulic problem in Malaysia, now some sort of a problem which by Mark's estimation was a clutch or something, he said. That was all it was on the radio.
Remember we said at the top of the show, Villeneuve is using Massa as a template. He said Felipe came from the back in Malaysia and scored points. I can do the same here. Well, he's doing it. He's up into 7th. Greg.
Well, Christian, it looked like a decent brush with the wall. What happened?
Yeah, it was just I couldn't switch on or warm up the tires anymore, and I just hit the brakes, the rear locked, and off the go I went to the inside wall first, and then the wall straight in front of me, and you know, there was nothing to do.
Are you okay?
I'm okay. I was getting checked at the medical center from two very nice, lovely Australian girls, and I'm fine.
We wish you better luck at the next Grand Prix.
Thank you.
Well, we're riding with Nick Heidfeld, who is in second position, yet to make his pit stop, and here he is doing it in the BMW. Very, very encouraging race for them, because he was matching Alonso's lap speed.
Back in the Sauber family, where he feels most comfortable. BMW power.
Raikkonen goes through into second place, and Heidfeld, and in comes Michael Schumacher from 4th position.
So a long first segment for Michael.
Is he going to get out of the pit lane in time? Or is Villeneuve going to take him in the BMW? No, he is not. Michael Schumacher maintains track position ahead of Jacques Villeneuve's BMW and his brother's Toyota. So Schumacher is in 6th position now.
Schumacher, Villeneuve, Schumacher. Some of the names of Formula One. Let's hear from Felipe Massa.
Felipe, I guess any racing weekend, getting through the first turn is critical, and this one's been very disappointing.
Yeah, definitely. It's very disappointing for me because, you know, I just became passenger. I was going to the first corner and I had a speed in one side, David in another side, and they just closed the door and make me a sandwich in the middle. And then I just touched one of them, and David just turned around and hit me completely in the middle of my car and put me in the guardrail. So I was just a passenger, you know. It's really a shame.
Bridgestone are working tremendously hard to try and close that gap to Michelin, but Michelin's still looking pretty strong.
Yeah, for sure they are really strong, and here we are struggling a lot to put the tires in the right temperature. So it's really difficult weekend for us.
Thanks, Philip.
I remember Graham Hill saying many years ago when his career was waning, I don't mind you meet a nicer class of person at the rear of the grid. But Felipe Massa won't be very happy with that. The moral of the story, as far as he is concerned, is qualify better, because he qualified badly.
Let's hear from Mark Webber. He's with Darrell.
Mark, motorsport can be cruel in a lot of ways. Mechanical failure.
Yeah, it's like gearbox or something. So, you know, the team, we're on the boat together, so to take the rough with the smooth, but we're not prepared enough, and unfortunately it's let us down in the race. So we're very, very heavy in qualifying, so we couldn't get to show our pace at the end there. On for a really good result. Unfortunately, got to get the checkered flag.
Thanks, Mark.
That's it. You've got to get to the checkered flag, and unfortunately, while leading the race, Mark Webber suffered mechanical failure of some sort.
Well, that's Jacques Villeneuve in the white car. Behind him is Liuzzi, who is in 9th place in the Toro Rosso. Between them are Ralf Schumacher, but Villeneuve has still to make his pit stop.
Fernando Alonso, the reigning world champion, enjoys a massive lead, 13.2 seconds over McLaren Mercedes' Kimi Raikkonen. Welcome back to the Foster's Australian Formula One Grand Prix. Renault is dominating this event. A 17-second lead margin. Alonso to Raikkonen. Montoya is third. Heidfeld well placed in fourth. Button, then Schumacher.
This underscores the reality that good cars remain good cars in all conditions. And the first two Grand Prix races of the year, Renault have been so strong, and that was really underscored at the second event in Malaysia. It was a little more difficult to tell at Bahrain because of the amount of intensive testing that Ferrari had done there in the lead up to the Grand Prix. But they're just streaking away at the moment. Another significant fact, though, is the pace of Michael at the moment. He's 6th, but he's catching Jenson Button very, very quickly. The margin last time through was 3 seconds between these two guys, but Michael's beginning to eat that margin, upwards of half a second or more per lap.
Greg, what do you have?
Well, Giancarlo Fisichella's team had been on the radio to him, Lee. They had been keeping an eye on the pace of Fernando Alonso at the front of this race. Fisichella, last year's winner, is currently 10th, and they feel that he's losing most of his time through the second sector, and they're telling him to hustle through that second sector and try and get on the same sort of pace as Fernando.
Well, let's have a look at the team positions. Fernando Alonso, of course, is leading the race. His teammate Fisichella is in 10th position. The two McLarens of Raikkonen and Montoya are 2nd and 3rd. Nick Heidfeld going brilliantly in the BMW, and his teammate Jacques Villeneuve is in the top 10 at 7th place. Jenson Button is the leading Honda in 5th place, with Rubens Barrichello down in 12th position.
Michael went off the road then, slipped off the road between 1 and 2, pushing hard. That margin now 2.1 seconds to Button, but he'll have lost some ground after they went past the computer timing.
He is right on it. He locked up at turn 14. Seeing Jenson so close, he can see the target.
Isn't it amazing? In 1999, Ferrari became dominant through 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2004. And look at them now.
Here's the replay of Michael running wide here at 14 on the wrong side of the curbing there. Incidentally, Rubens has just come in for his first stop, so a long first stint for him. And here's the replay of Michael that I spoke about before, running wide left of the curb on the exit of turn 1. Probably a half second or more delay in that.
And the McLarens clearly are not as fast as people thought they were going to be. Kimi Raikkonen now nearly 22 seconds on lap 32 behind race leader Fernando Alonso.
Greg?
Well, guys, Button is acutely aware that Michael Schumacher behind him there is pushing in his pursuit of the man who had pole for this race, and Jenson just trying to keep a rhythm going, and he's asked the team at Honda, he says, please do not talk to me during corners. He's obviously conscious, Neil, with these cars. That is that.
Montoya's taken another half a second out of Raikkonen, from 3.8 to 3.2 seconds. The Colombian is coming.
2 seconds a lap slower than Fernando. This cannot be possible. You've got the same fuel load. I know you've got some understeer, but you cannot be 2 seconds slower. Come on.
Come on, Fisichella, get on with it, they're saying, in effect.
Alan Permain, his engineer, giving him that message, and
3.1 seconds the margin. It could have been even less than that if he hadn't run off at 16. There's Heidfeld.
Oh, Michael is in the wall! Michael Schumacher has clobbered the wall on the exit of 16.
He certainly has, and he's well and truly out of the race, and I bet the safety car is coming out again now, because there's going to be debris all over the circuit, and sure enough, the safety car is coming out. Both Ferraris are out of the Australian Grand Prix.
Perfect timing for Jacques Villeneuve. And that's as a result of trying to make a car do something it doesn't want to do. He just didn't have the pace today, Michael, didn't have the grip. He sneaks through the gap in the wall. He had the presence of mind to get it to the right-hand side of the road.
Out of the Grand Prix, and will be livid.
He's going to go out through the back of Toyota. Just doesn't know which way to go through there.
His brother can tell him the way. Renault in. Alonso, race leader. At the time of pitting, had almost a 25-second lead.
Well, what drama. Both Williams out of the race, both Ferraris out of the race. Second fuel safety car out yet again. That's the 3rd time in this race, and we're on lap 35 out of 57, just 22 laps to go, as Kimi Raikkonen takes on new tyres.
And a new wing, a wing change on the front. and they're having problems getting it fitted. It's just not going back into place on the lugs. Now they've got it on. Done up. That's a costly... Oh, and Montoya has to wait as well. Not good for McLaren. Not good at all.
No, they made the judgment that it's better to bring Montoya in while the pace car's out and make him wait a bit than send him round yet again.
Which may look bad, but it's not as bad as it seems. Often occurs in V8 supercar racing.
Well, a race of constantly changing positions.
Watch Michael Schumacher. Final turn.
Understeers wide on the wrong side of the ripple strip on the grass, then bounce, and it takes him up into the wall on the left side. It was the bounce off the end that did the damage.
It's not the first time we've seen Michael do that. He has done it before. Same corner, same place.
And look at those shards of carbon fibre, which can be as sharp as a razor. It will take some time to clear the course now behind the safety car. They'll have to sweep it very, very carefully indeed, because if any of those razor-sharp shards are left on the tarmac, they can slice straight through a tyre. This is a replay of Montoya holding his hand up in despair. What can I do? That's Kimi Räikkönen, my teammate, in front of me. Out he goes, and I've been losing time while all this is going on. What a way to run a railway.
Michael actually had that thing pretty much under control. He'd taken the load out of it and was just surfing through the problem, but they tripped on that little bump right at the exit of the curb, and that just sent the car into the wall on the left side.
Can you believe it? Webber out, Schumacher out. It has been an eventful race, and it is far from over. You wouldn't have predicted that, would you? The Ferrari of seven-time world champion Michael Schumacher returning to the pits on the back of a flatbed truck.
And the winner here in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2004. Disaster for him today. Now, that triggered the safety car, which in turn triggered a heap of stops. Alonso's in good shape, but Nick Heidfeld has jumped to second. Räikkönen did a wing change. He's in third. But the guy that it really hurt was one Pablo Montoya. Remember, he had to wait in the pit lane for his teammate to get that wing service done. He's dropped back to position 6.
Well, anybody want to buy a second-hand Ferrari? There's two of them here. Quite incredible. Fortunately, both drivers, Felipe Massa and Michael Schumacher, are perfectly okay. We've seen Michael shin up with the barrier on top of the pit wall and go into the garage and walk away disconsolately.
The driver who deserves a big pat on the back is former world champion Jacques Villeneuve, has come from 19th to 8th. And the two BMWs look very impressive.
It's incredible. Nick Heidfeld in second position. Of course, you can see how the safety car is going to come in on this lap, and the race will restart yet again with Alonso leading Heidfeld, Räikkönen in third position, Jenson Button, the pole sitter, as Jeff Willis talks to Nick Fry, the boss of Honda. Jenson Button, their man, in fourth position. Ralf Schumacher in the Toyotas, higher than he's been for a long time, in fifth place. And Montoya, after his pit stop, which was delayed following Kimi Räikkönen, is in sixth place.
I think that Nick and Jeff Willis will be a little disappointed with Jenson's pace at the moment, particularly relative to yesterday's qualifying speed. What's interesting to watch here is how aggressive everybody is trying to retain heat and, importantly, tyre pressure in those tyres as everything cools out under safety car. And one of the problems with a Formula One car, when they lose heat and therefore pressure, they also lose ride height. On a bumpy street circuit, that's not good. Look at the margin for Alonso as they restart. He's disappeared. What are the rest of them doing?
And a great benefit, of course, to fuel consumption, this bringing out the safety car as Heidfeld and the McLaren of Kimi Räikkönen sprint past the Midland car to lap it. And Heidfeld has got the McLaren tucked right up under his wing, challenging very hard indeed. And Jacques Villeneuve is moving well too. This is a terrific restart.
Watch for Montoya. And he's carving his way through the traffic. Ralf Schumacher to the right, there's been contact.
And Montoya got a bump from somebody. And Räikkönen was looking very aggressive on Heidfeld at the restart. Of course, they were tripping over the Midlands, And under the regulations, you cannot pass another car after a safety car period until you've gone past the control line. And that was the reason they got scattered. We've got the safety car again.
Dodging and weaving, ducking and diving, placing, changing. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars all together. 2 more behind them. Fisichella tucked up there. He's benefiting. He's up into 7th place.
Why do we have another safety car? We don't have the answer. The drivers are still not fully aware.
Now they get out of it. We have just returned from a safety car period, and we're in it again. Someone's in the wall. It's a Toro Rosso. It's Liuzzi. After such a good drive.
Was in 9th position, now out of the race.
Second crash of the weekend for the Italian.
Well, carnage at Melbourne. Car after car hitting the unforgiving concrete walls, smashing these multi-million motor cars to pieces. Gerhard Berger, the team boss who owns half the team, with his team manager, Franz Liszt, alongside him. And the Honda team ready to get one of their cars in. Jenson Button, is it? Or is it going to be Rubens Barrichello? Well, there's the... And look at the debris on the circuit.
I wonder whether that was related to the bump that Montoya got. We were riding on board with him. This is on the approach to turn 3. There's the confirmation of the top 8 at this point. Alonso, Raikkonen, Ralph Heidfeld, Montoya, Button, Fisichella, Villeneuve. So Heidfeld has dropped 2 spots there.
So potentially, for the first time this year, there is a Toyota on the podium, 3rd position. Lee, you've been out to Cologne and you talked to Mike Gascoigne about the Toyota. They put in a terrific effort. They're getting some return here.
They really worked hard in between the last Grand Prix and now with Bridgestone. They particularly credit Bridgestone for coming up with a tyre that would suit the TF106 a little better. And so far, so good. But the frustrating thing for us, for Australians, is that Mark Webber had the pace to outpace Ralf Schumacher. And now the German is in 3rd, and our man is out of the race.
It's fortunate there's a 3-week gap to the next event in Europe, to Imola. They're completing this first cycle of flyaway events, Bahrain, Malaysia, Australia. They'll need it to recover from this. For many of them, they're back in Europe on Wednesday testing. It's going to take a big recovery from the mess that we've created today.
No one has come close to Fernando Alonso today. He may not have started on the front row, but he has been first class, the world champion.
Oh, he took the lead from Jenson Button brilliantly, and then he just drove away. And if it hadn't been for the safety cars, he would have been in the next county.
There's Johnny Herbert and Mike Gascoigne on the right, technical director for the chassis from Toyota, talking with Herbert.
And that'll be, can you ask your blokes to get out of the way when we restart this race? We don't want to lose margin. I mean, at that last restart, it was terrible how much the Midland cars had let Fernando go at the start. It was astonishing. It was hundreds of metres.
Yeah, and Johnny Herbert, of course, is with the Midland team.
Sporting Relations Officer for MF1. Some replays of the action from earlier, and that's Liuzzi. So he goes from one side of the track to the other.
And nearly collecting Villeneuve in the process. Once again, a shower of sharp carbon fibre litters the tarmac.
Every likelihood that that'll be a lost tub on that car because it's made huge contact with the wall there.
And this is where the run down to 3, and then they're going through. Montoya got hit. Oh, this is after that.
You know what, I reckon that Heidfeld actually has been unfairly passed because after the safety car intervention. What's happened is 2 or 3 guys have jumped him, and they've not readdressed, and I wonder whether race control, whether the race director will look at this, because Heidfeld had track position, and I think got cleaned up around the back on the run through 8 and 9.
Well, the yellows were out, the SC boards were out, and they were all still into it. They were all still in race mode.
And he's down in 5th position now.
But I'm certain that, and this is purely a guess, that he would leap onto the radio and scream about that scenario, because when you know that you've backed off because you've seen a yellow flag or an SC board or had the message on the radio and people go by you, you will typically erupt.
And now we've just got 18 laps left, and the safety car is coming in this lap with Fernando.
It's so sticky. I mean, it's not the time to talk, but I tell you, we're going to have to change
I'm struggling like a pig, says Rubens Barrichello. There he is. We're going to have to change the materials. I presume that he's talking about brake discs and he's got a brake problem. I don't know that for sure, but there's the safety car. There is Alonso leading, Raikkonen in second position. Ralf Schumacher is in third place. We're with Jenson Button here.
This is where things got a little crazy. Look at Kimi's on the left, Ralf Schumacher's up the right. Contact between Kimi and Jenson Button.
Now, did that derange Jenson Button's left front suspension on the Honda? They're very delicate, those wishbones, if you hit them in the wrong place. They're made of carbon fibre.
So Montero is the driver between. It's happening again. Look at this. Alonso just drives away and leaves hundreds of metres and traps the other cars. Just totally traps the McLaren and the Toyota in turn. It's terrifying for a competitor.
The traction of that Renault is utterly fantastic.
He cannot go by until you've gone past the control line. Now he can get on with it.
Schumacher, Ralf runs wide at one, maintains. He's able to keep it on the black stuff. He knows that he's got Montoya chasing.
And the Midland is being passed by car after car as he keeps out of the way, and rightly so. Ralf Schumacher goes through. Behind Ralf Schumacher is Montoya. It's Alonso leading, Raikkonen second, Ralf Schumacher, Montoya is fourth, then it's Heidfeld down from second to fifth, Jenson Button is sixth. What has happened to the Honda? Fisichella is up into seventh place, the much criticised by his team. Fisichella, who told him in effect to get a move on, and he's getting a move on. We're with him now.
That was a pretty bizarre radio message. We know that you've got a little understeer in the car, but you cannot be 2 seconds a lap slower. Get on with it.
And that would have pressed the button. Alan Permain, his race engineer, igniting Fisichella. Button is the next one on his list.
And that's him ahead in the white Honda. That 41 out of 57. And just listen to him flicking those as he goes down through the gearbox. Vroom, vroom, vroom. He just flicks the lever underneath the steering wheel. And it's all done for him.
I can't wait to check this margin. What a free kick for Alonso. It's 5.1 seconds to Kimi.
And what a transformation for Toyota, because Ralf Schumacher is only 1 second behind Kimi Raikkonen in second place, and Fisichella is right on Button.
He's caught him. Now he just needs to get him. Button is in trouble. The pole man has done nothing but slide backwards all race.
And Fisichella is about to move with a bit of luck for him up into sixth position to increase his potential point scoring situation as the Midland tours onto the grass. Thiago Monteiro, who've been passed by car after car after car, and there are now just 15 cars left out of the 22 who started.
His teammate Christian Albers has got Heidfeld, Button and Fisichella closing in on him very quickly. The first American since Michael Andretti in 1993, Scott Speed, is just one position away from scoring his first World Championship point.
That would be some compensation for Gerhard Berger's team after Tonio Liuzzi came out of the race. And that's Montero being pulled back into the garage. End of the Australian Grand Prix for him on lap 42.
Six seconds now is the gap between Alonso and Raikkonen. So Fernando made another 0.9 on that lap. 1.1 seconds is the gap between Kimi and Ralf Schumacher, with Montoya 2.3 seconds further behind and trying to recover from that delayed pit stop.
And that gap, Neil, maintained steady. 2.3 the last time round, 2.3 this time round between Ralf Schumacher and Montoya. Montoya can't catch the German at the moment.
But Fisichella can catch the Honda. He's done it. You can practically read that word on the rear wing as he closes up on the corners to Jenson Button's Honda ahead of him. And that is in sixth place. Fisi has got the message. Look at the revs, 18,000, 19,000 RPM. Now you you see why these Formula One drivers are such superstars. This looks like a PlayStation, but this is the real thing.
And Montero out. We've got Alonso in the Renault, leading Raikkonen in the McLaren Mercedes, and Toyota is looking at their first podium of the year. Back at Melbourne. We will take you all the way to the checkered flag. No more commercial breaks till we see the black and white. What can Nick Heidfeld come up with? He's got Button behind, Button still holding Fisichella off. And while one Schumacher is looking at a podium spot, that's Ralph. His brother Michael is out of the race, and Greg Rust is right in the thick of the international media scrum.
Well, Michael Schumacher, what happened?
Run out of road.
Michael, was that just down to the fact you were pushing so hard, or were there any problems with the car that contributed to it?
Yeah, no, I was behind Jensen, who was in whatever trouble, and I was running pretty close to get a good slipstream out of the last corner, and put too much understeer and run wide.
Earlier in the race, we saw you being overtaken by the Toro Rosso. Do you think that V10 is giving them an unfair advantage?
No, not at all. I mean, that was purely down to our poor performance at this stage of the race.
Was the car's pace better in the race generally?
Once we got to change tyres, we were obviously very competitive, yeah.
Hard luck today.
Typically fair and honest of Michael Schumacher, calling it the way it is, and the way it is on the track.
Oh, problems here! Just a most amazing save there. And a problem, he's pulled off.
It's Montoya, it's over for Montoya.
We saw.
So that means that Heidfeld moves up into fourth position as Ron Dennis calmly looks at the television screen ahead of him. Montoya now, are we going to have yet another pace car to remove the stationary McLaren from the track? Is it in a position of danger?
I wonder whether Juan Pablo actually hit the pit lane speed limiter button then, because we saw the flashing light illuminate at the rear. Often when you're trying to catch a car that's getting out of shape and your hands are frantic on the steering wheel, weird things can happen.
Good call, Neil. That could well have happened. But thank heavens Montoya is perfectly all right. Not very far to walk to the McLaren gantry.
That was looking as though it was going to be a repeat of Michael's incident.
Well, the safety car is not out, and Alonso is on another very quick one. He's made the fastest lap of the race, incidentally. 1:26.9, which is about 2.5 seconds off Michael Schumacher's previous V10 fastest ever lap at Albert Park.
He was almost there. Montoya was trying to get on the podium.
What would drivers do without hand signals in this situation?
Well, I think the pit lane safety officer was asking him to just take care and he'd shoot him away, didn't he?
And the adrenaline is pouring out of him at this time, Lee. I've seen James Hunt knock a marshal down in that situation.
Watch for the moment here, which was very reminiscent of what happened to Michael, but he wasn't as far to the left. There's a little puff of blue there, but watch for the tail light. It'll illuminate shortly. Here it is. Flashes on and off. Now, the tail light is illuminated constantly when they're on wets, or it also illuminates when they engage the pit lane speed limiter.
What a save.
And he was following Ralph Schumacher's Toyota at the time, which is still in third position.
They're pushing the car down towards the pit lane exit at the moment as Juan Pablo walks back into the garage.
Just 10 laps to go now. Alonso looking very good indeed for yet another victory. Nearly 7 seconds ahead of Kimi Raikkonen's McLaren, where it looks as though it's going to go the distance and that Raikkonen is at last going to score some points. Ralph Schumacher in third place. Nick Heidfeld is going to come home if he stays where he is now in fourth position. Great news for BMW, especially because Jacques Villeneuve is in the points too in the other BMW in 7th place. Rubens Barrichello has now got up into the points, so both the Hondas are in the points at 5th and 8th positions.
Villeneuve, who topped it right up to start the race, is going to go all the way with just one stop. He pitted on lap 33. He's just done a personal best first and second sector. Villeneuve in the points again, right from the back of the pack in 19th. And Rubens Barrichello, that will be some reward. He's in 8th place, a single point if he can stay there for the remaining 9 laps.
Watching the 2 Red Bull cars of David Coulthard behind his teammate Scott, behind the Toro Rosso, of Scott Speed. So the Ferrari-powered Red Bull of David Coulthard closing up on the 3-litre Cosworth-powered Toro Rosso of Scott Speed, the American.
And Alonso just rubbing salt into the wounds, the fastest first sector time.
Well, this Spaniard really is incredible. When we had that colossal run of success by Michael Schumacher, World Championship after World Championship, it didn't seem as though there was a replacement waiting in the wings, but all the time there was. The man who's transformed the attitude of his country, Spain, to Formula One, Fernando Alonso, has just got 8 laps now, including the one he is on, to get his second victory out of 2 races in 2006 and to increase his World Championship lead. He's already the youngest world champion in Formula One.
This will bring massive relief to Panasonic Toyota Racing. The fact that Ralf Schumacher is in 3rd after the start, the dreadful start they made to the 2006 season.
Fisichella, the closest battle on the track at the present moment in the top places, is between Fisichella and Button. There's just 1.5 seconds between them, but Fisichella still can't get up to the Honda.
Greg.
We're just in the middle of a scrum here, guys. I'll come back to you shortly.
Greg's endeavouring to try and grab Juan Pablo Montoya.
And I can tell you that that is very, very hard work, because it's like a feeding frenzy when a retired driver appears from out of the motorhome. There's dozens of media people there, and they all want to get at them, so good luck, Greg. So, what is it that gives you wings, Lee?
Yeah, Red Bull.
It's Red Bull, and David Coulthard is certainly flying. But not hard enough. Scott Speed is still ahead of him, and Coulthard is out of the points, as is Scott Speed. But if one car ahead of Speed has trouble, he's going to be in the points at 8th position as we watch Ralf Schumacher in the Toyota, securely driving along in 3rd position.
You up 1 second per lap.
Juan Pablo, was it some sort of electronics problem? What's transpired there?
No, I think it's electronics. The thing just shut off completely, you know, it's like it went into neutral, it just shut off completely.
Not linked to the pit lane speed limit at all?
No.
What was the race like? I mean, it's an unbelievable race that's been unfolding today. What about from your side of the things?
But it was, you know, at the beginning of the race I thought it was going to be a disaster. Then it just started coming into us, and then this.
Hard luck.
Yeah, it started in wild fashion for Montoya. It ended in wild fashion, ironically, on the same corner.
David Coulthard with Scott Speed ahead of him in the Toro Rosso and staying there. The American getting plenty of race experience in 2006. He did well in the GP2 Championship last year, 3rd position, and his reward was to get the Formula One drive with the ex-Minardi team, renamed Toro Rosso.
Murray, I was telling Neil the other day I was living in the United States when they instigated this Red Bull driver search to Formula One, in which Scott Speed won that seat. It created a lot of headlines, a lot of interest within the US, because Danny Sullivan, as you know him very well, was right in the thick of it. He was involved in the marketing drive and the search for talent, and it's finally paid off. That program is now shut down. They've achieved their objective of having an American in Formula One again, and he's doing well. Pat Simmons is not
with
happy.
His head in his hands. What's he worried about? Alonso is leading the race. Fisichella is in 6th position. They are both well and truly in the points. Alonso is still nearly 10 seconds ahead of Raikkonen. Fisichella may not be able to catch Button, but he's still well and truly in the points. But Pat Simmons, the master tactician, is looking unhappy. Or is he just tired?
And remember that these fellows can get a lot of information from their cars via telemetry. So is there a problem that they are seeing in the garage that's been conveyed out to the pit wall? They're not using a lot of revs in the Renault at the moment.
Sounds healthy enough. Listen.
Upshifting at just over 18.
That doesn't look or sound like a second motor car now.
Not at all. I wasn't suggesting that, but they're not using all of the available revs because we've seen them north of 19,000.
Okay, David, you just have to pass him. You have to pass him.
Simple as that.
Oh, thank you.
Can't hear you.
You know, it must be very frustrating.
You have to pass Scott. You have to pass Scott.
Oh, all right then. You don't think I'm trying? It must be very frustrating for a race driver to sit there. Someone have belly aching away at him from the pit lane. You've got to do better sometime.
Christian Horner, the sporting director at Red Bull Racing, watches on as his man who scored Red Bull Racing's first championship points here last year in Melbourne.
I think Red Bull do not want to have the indignity with their Ferrari V8 engine of being beaten by one of the Toro Rosso cars with the V10 3-litre Cosworth engine. Maybe that's what it's all about. But they've got to be very careful they don't take each other off with just 5 laps to go now to the end of the 2006 Australian Grand Prix, as you watch David Coulthard trying to catch and pass Scott Speed, the American.
Toro Rosso is basically last year's Red Bull car, the RB1, modified slightly to meet the 2006 rules.
Whether we can read something into this or not, the lead margin has reduced, albeit just by half a second. But that's the first time we have seen it go the other way. Raikkonen closer to Alonso.
Yeah, Raikkonen is on it. His fastest first sector, the fastest second sector of the race. This circuit, like all of them, is divided into 3 sectors for timekeeping purposes, and that's the fastest third sector for Raikkonen.
Darryl.
Antonio, it was a fantastic start to you for this race. It looked like you were going to be in the points there for a while.
Yeah, it was a really big shame because I thought that we could have really fight for points. It was really, I think, a good race from the beginning onwards, and I was really upset when Jacques put me into the wall at the restart of the race because I was overtaking him as well and was already done the overtake. He just pushed me until it was the end of the road. And I don't think it's the way to do it because at 300 km/h is dangerous, we can hurt each other. But anyway, if this is the way to race, and now I know it worked. I'm really surprised I didn't tell him anything, but we'll see. The only shame is that we could have scored point, and now we have to wait 1 more week.
Thank you. Rusty?
You were mentioning, guys, about the pace of Kimi Raikkonen. I can tell you that Renault is very, very aware of that at the moment. In fact, they've radioed both drivers and said that during the stop, the wing change or adjustment that they've made to Raikkonen's car will improve his pace. They know that, and from Renault's standpoint, they've asked the boys to keep the pace on. Certainly for Giancarlo Fisichella, they know that the middle sector is where he's hurting at the moment. There's lots of encouragement coming from the team. Rubens Barrichello, in an effort to overcome these brake problems, they've told him to move maybe too forward on the bias for now.
Raikkonen is flying. 8.4 seconds the lead margin now. He's taken a second out of Alonso.
Yes, last lap for Kimi was a 26.4, plays 27.7 for Fernando. So have they just wound him down slightly, keeping in mind these engines must do 2 events. It was fresh for this weekend, or does he have an issue?
And look at this, Fisichella in 6th position has closed right up on Jenson Button in 5th place. Remember, he was told by the team to get a move on. He's closed right up on the Honda in front of him. He's going to be challenging through it. He's very nearly in a position to come out of the slipstream of the Honda. He has a quick look. Jenson Button closes the door, but Fisichella is now really travelling faster than Jenson Button's Honda, which started in pole position and is now in 5th place. And there's just 3 laps to go. It's going to be a tremendous climax at the front because Raikkonen has got the gap between himself and Alonso down to 7.1 seconds as we watch this battle for 5th. And it's still Ralf Schumacher in a secure 3rd position for Toyota. Heidfeld in the BMW 4th ahead of Jenson Button, who is ahead of us now as we ride with Giancarlo Fisichella.
Not only will it be Alonso's first win here at the Foster's Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix,
Raikkonen has done the fastest middle sector of this race, a 23.1 in his pursuit of Fernando Alonso.
5.7 seconds. It's as close as it's ever been.
But there's still time for Alonso to just calmly control the race from the front, provided he hasn't got a problem. There's only this lap and the next one to go, and he's still nearly 6 seconds ahead of Raikkonen's flying McLaren, as Fisichella again has another go at Jenson Button for 5th position.
A lot of positives to be taken away from BMW Sauber, both cars in the points. That's a first for this year. Fisichella growing impatient, but he can't do anything about it. Both Hondas in the points as well.
Now Button is closing up on E-Day's Super Aguri.
Okay, mate, I'm fairly chilled out myself.
He said he was fairly chilled out.
I think all is well, actually. I think all is well. Nearly 6 seconds between Fernando Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen. Almost at the end of the race. It's looking very secure for another victory for Renault, another victory for Fernando Alonso from Spain. And it looks too as though Jenson Button is going to be able to stave off the hard-trying Giancarlo Fisichella in 6th position to the end of the race, with Villeneuve in 7th position ahead of the last point scorer, Rubens Barrichello.
The 24-year-old Spaniard has an unblemished record here in Melbourne. He finished 12th on debut for Minardi, 7th in his first appearance for Renault. The last 2 years have been 2/3, and now he's on his way to a win.
But if Fisichella plays his cards right, he might get Jenson Button here, because Button has got to catch and pass E-Day's Super Aguri. And if E-Day gets in the way, it could give Fisichella the opportunity to dive past Jenson Button's Honda and take 5th position. But no, E-Day moves out of the way, sees them in his mirrors. Fisichella closes up now. Now he really can read the wording on the wing. 1 lap to go for Fernando Alonso, and another famous, fabulous victory, this time in Australia.
Another faster sector for Kimi in the middle sector. He's red hot at the moment, 22.9. He's got the margin down to 4.3 seconds, but Alonso's cruising.
10th career victory, his first on the streets of Melbourne. World champion Fernando Alonso wins the Foster's Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix.
From Kimi Raikkonen by 1.8 seconds. So Fernando Alonso, I believe, was controlling things to the end of the race. A typical cool, calm and collected reaction from the Spaniard. So Renault wins, McLaren is in 2nd. There is Ralf Schumacher taking Toyota's first podium of 2006. Ahead.
Button has blown up! Button has blown up! He goes out in flames! Can he get to the line before Fisichella? No! Oh, can you believe it? The Honda fails right with the finish line in view.
Look at it! He's just a matter of a few meters from the finish line, and it's seized up solid, and Jenson Button is finito. And David Coulthard just fails to take Scott's speed. What an incredible climax to a race that has been full of climaxes. Wow, 57 laps of Albert Park, and that familiar waving hand from Fernando Alonso.
Lovely win, mate. Grazie, fantastico.
Grazie. That's Flavio Briatore, the Italian team boss for Renault. He was the man who nurtured Michael Schumacher to World Championship in 1994 and 1995 for Benetton, and he's doing it again with Fernando Alonso as a very unhappy Jenson Button walks in.
What a nightmare for Jenson. What an absolute nightmare to work that hard for that long and to get so close to the finish line and not to get a yield from it. Alonso, the winner from Raikkonen, who did the fastest lap at the very end. Here we go, the replay. The thing absolutely smokes and let goes at turn 15 and explodes turning onto the front straight. I'm surprised that Fisichella didn't end up in the wall.
Well, that's going to increase Renault's lead in the Constructors' Championship, because they've got both their cars home in the top 5. Alonso the winner, Fisichella in 5th position.
at the oil. Oil everywhere. Ralf Schumacher in third. Nick Heidfeld fourth. Fisichella surviving for fifth, despite these scenes at the end for Button. He slipped and slid, but got across the line in the Renault. Jacques Villeneuve seventh. Rubens got points in seventh for Rubens, sixth for JV. Scott Speed finished eighth, and therefore came home in front of David Coulthard.
First Formula One World Championship points for Speed, but it's all about this guy. He won the first Grand Prix of the year, he's won the third, and is defending his World Championship beautifully. The next time we see him here in Melbourne, he will be in a McLaren Mercedes. But for now, it's all about Alonso and Renault.
And as you rightly pointed out, Neil, reliability is the name of the game, particularly for these vital first 3 races of the new year. And Alonso has now won 2 of them.
Great with the emotion, Fernando Alonso. Loves the thrill of victory. And he has done it beautifully today.
Oh, caramba! Don't know what that means, but there's Joe Barr, the scrutineer that makes sure all the cars are legal, as Alonso shakes Kimi Raikkonen by the hand. Herbie Blash welcomes them in. And the job now is to get them up onto the podium, and are very, very happy, I'm sure, Ralf Schumacher, knowing that all the effort that Toyota have been putting into to make the car go faster is working.
Fernando Alonso winner, margin just 1.8 seconds at the end from Kimi Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher. What a turnaround for Toyota after the disastrous first round. Heidfeld in fourth position. Look at those not classified today. Huge problems for Montoya, for Michael Schumacher, for Mark Webber, for Christian Klein, for Nico Rosberg, Felipe Massa. An amazing start to this third round of the championship. The situation in the world title at the moment has Alonso with 28, Fisichella 14. He shares that with Kimi Raikkonen. So Alonso picks up his 10th Grand Prix victory. His second this year.
And of course he was second in the third race. 3 races and he's yet to finish lower than second. A less stressful race for them in terms of heat, because it was very, very hot in Bahrain. It was stupefyingly hot in Malaysia. Kimi Raikkonen must be relieved he's got to the end of the race without either an incident or without a car reliability problem. Well, your golf partner's a happy man.
He is, and so too will Toyota, but not as happy as that guy, the world champion. Brilliant performance. He was in a class of his own today, so much so he could cruise at the end and tease Kimi, allowed Kimi to get within touch, but it's party time on the podium.
The stirring strains of the Marseillaise for the French national anthem for Renault, the constructors' winner. Ring out for Spaniard Fernando Alonso. That wonderful trophy, simulation of Jack Brabham's Cooper steering wheel from way back in the 1959-60s, with which he won the World Championship.
Renault are getting used to this, aren't they? That's 3 from 3 in 2006.
And Kimi Räikkönen looking his usual euphoric self.
Ron Walker, the chairman of the Australian Grand Prix Corporation, presenting Kimi with his runner-up. Drove hard today, and Schumacher, 3 different manufacturers in the top 3. Ralph will be pleased with that. And a good turnaround. The test in between Malaysia and here obviously paid off.
And it's actually 4 different manufacturers in the top 4, with BMW in 4th place for Heidfeld. And that's a very encouraging sign in Formula 1.
We will hear from our top 3 when we come back, and we have got still so much more to come with a full wrap of the Australian Grand Prix.
Another fantastic performance from Renault and indeed the world champion Fernando Alonso, and we'll discuss in our analysis of this race, among many other things, for there are a lot of things to talk about, just how much of Alonso was in that win and how much of Renault, because he is starting to take that Schumacher-like shape in this championship. So before we hear from the 3 drivers on top of the podium, there were many other interesting facets to come out of that race, not the least of which was the improvement of Toyota, the improvement of BMW, and the marvellous weekend that Mark Webber had. Here are the top 3.
Schumacher, second for Team McLaren Mercedes, Kimi Räikkönen, and winning his first Grand Prix of the year for Mild 7 Renault, the world champion Fernando Alonso. Fernando, congratulations, welcome back. What a race. First of all, Giancarlo, your teammate, having a problem. That, I guess, opened up the first corner a little bit for you.
Yes, in a way, yes, because it was a little bit difficult. Jenson did a good start, so I guess if Giancarlo was there on the inside, it was a little bit more difficult. But you know, I don't know exactly what happened to him. We have to see and check that it doesn't happen anymore to him or even to me. So part of this, I think the race was a little bit crazy. I didn't understand some moments of the races that I was maybe 20 seconds ahead, and the gap disappeared after 3 or 4 safety cars in 10 laps. And but you know, I think the car was perfect. It was not any risk to lose the victory in any time, so I was quite big confidence.
Well, there seemed to be problems, a lot of problems getting temperature into the tyres at the restart, but on every restart you got a fantastic lead.
Yeah, it seems that our car was a little bit warming the tires better and ready for the first lap. It happened the first lap when Jenson was leading the race. I overtook him quite easy on the straight on the restart. And then the other ones, I was pulling away in the first 2 laps, like 6 seconds, and then was enough to maintain the gap. And, you know, was a little advantage today for me.
Just talking about Jenson, the opening lap of the race, very close with Jenson.
Very close, especially at the start. I locked the tires and I nearly hit him in the first corner. Then we fight really close for 10-3, but as always, when I fight with Jenson, I had no problems at all. It's a lot of respect from each other, and we didn't have any problem. And you know, then after that, he went back and disappeared from the first places, and it was a little bit easier for me.
And then your second pit stop under the safety car conditions, no problem there, but then late race pressure from Kimi.
Yes, as I said before, I was like 20 seconds ahead, and after the safety car gone, and after the restart, I have also quite a good car, no problems at all in the balance, so it was not too difficult today to pull away.
Congratulations, a great win. Kimi, an interesting and spectacular race for you too. Perhaps talk us through it. You obviously had a problem with your nose at one point and perhaps a vibration too.
Yeah, on one of the restarts I overtook Jenson and I locked the inside wheel in turn 1. I managed to still stay ahead of him through 1 and corner 1 and 3, and then unfortunately with the vibration on the front tire, the car was still quite quick. I was able to keep up with Fernando, but then suddenly I think we lost some part of the end plate because the vibration. So I was quite slow on that point, but luckily there was safety car and we had enough time to change the nose after that, because I think the speed was there in the car to really fight for the victory. But just my little mistake cost quite a lot in the end, and also there was some lapped people between always me and Fernando in the end. But anyhow, the car is quick, so just if we get the proper race without any problems, I think we should be able to fight for wins, and then we see what happens.
Well, only 1.8 seconds behind at the end and setting fastest lap on the last lap there. The car must have been really good at the end, but I believe you're on slightly different tyres to Renault. Do you think that was a factor?
Yeah, I think so. We have different tire, but I think so. They were good for us, but with all the problems with the car, with the nose, really, I was not able to push before. So the car was quick all the time, but of course he slowed down in the end, so it wasn't really realistic. But on the lap times, you can see that the speed is there, so that's positive. And I think so. As long as we get one good race, and then without any problems, we should be okay.
Well, congratulations. Equal second in the championship now. Ralph, turning to you, I guess with the stop-go penalty you had and from where you came from in Bahrain and Malaysia, this almost feels like a win for you, I would imagine.
Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, you can imagine we're all very happy with what we achieved today. I mean, as you said, the drive-through was my mistake because I double hit the pit limiter button. So, you know, but I was lucky due to the safety car, and I think we achieved a lot more than we ever thought before this weekend.
The safety car allowed you to regain some time after that stop-go, and then also you picked up a lot of places in the final safety car period, obviously just before the yellows came out.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we only had the warm-up problems here this weekend, but it looked like some Michelin runners had the same problem. I mean, Jensen struggled and Nick as well. So Nick just went off and I could get by. You know, that obviously gave me another position. And, I mean, with all the back markers in between us, it was a bit of a fight, really. But yeah, we went through and finished third. It was great.
Looked like you had a very spectacular opening phase to the race as well on those opening laps.
Similar thing, you know, we all were sliding, so, you know, just saw a lot of locking wheels and stuff like that. It was very interesting. It was very difficult for me today because the grip of the car was never really there to fight the whole race, to keep it there. But, you know, it worked out.
It did indeed. Where do you think Toyota are now? Do you think you're back to where you were in 2005?
Well, I think we had a good result today, but still, you know, we're far away from the top teams, I guess. I mean, seeing the lap time, so we have to work, but I have no doubt at all that our crew is able to do that. I mean, we're strong people. You know, they're really pushing hard, so I'm looking forward to the next few races.
And returning finally to you, Fernando, a nice lead, early lead in the World Championship now. Your first win of the season. Renault, very strong, won the first 3 races. It's all looking great.
Yeah, I won the first one and this third one. Fisi did the race before, and I was second, so 28 points in 30 is a dream come true again. This is the start of the season, so let's hope it finishes like last year.